Scott Walters, welcome to the channel. If you're new, I want to thank you for coming. If you're returning, I want to thank you for your continued support. Before we get into today's red hot topic, I'm going to politely ask you to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment below. I would love to hear from you. Please watch to the end for my final thought. Hit the bell icon so you're notified when new videos are released. It's very important to stay close to the channel in these very tricky times. All right, folks, welcome into the channel. It's always an honor and a privilege to be with you. I hope you're all doing great. So today we're going to have another hard-hitting, pull no punches, real look at the state of our economy, real estate, stocks, you name it, it will all be covered right here in this video. And so the reality is, folks, like I've been saying this more than once, everything hinges on the housing market. If the housing market fails, everything will in fact fail. And right now we are at great crash risk. We've been temperature checking, providing real talk, even as an industry insider who benefits from this crazy market continuing, letting you know it can't, there's no way it can. It's been artificially propped up through stimulus and stimulus spending. It's propped up every single asset class, which brings us into today's topic. Now, folks, in the last real estate bubble, growth, we had, I think, about 14% appreciation in a short period of time. In this bubble, we've had about 19% appreciation in the same period of time, about a year's time. That is unorganic growth, and what we saw the last time that happened, an epic crash, the biggest housing crash ever seen. A lot of people warning us of another big crash is coming. It only makes sense. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this one out. I've always said, as long as we look between the cracks, read between the lines, we should be able to figure this one out for ourselves. As somebody who lived through the last housing bubble, even lost a house in it, I know firsthand what that feels like. So my goal today is really to help people understand that. I think one of the things we have to look at today, folks, is temperature checking. What is actually going on out there in terms of, what are our risk factors? What are warning signs? What are some of the things that we can continue to temperature check? I always say that is we need to heat map and temperature check the economy. But one of the things that we're going to talk about in today's hugest housing bubble ever produced in history, and the last housing bubble ever produced in history of 2008, the previous one, Michael Burry, the guy from The Big Short, he had shorted the market. Most of us know that. And so he had predicted the market was going to crash. Everybody laughed at him. The narrative was, no, real estate will continue to appreciate. It's too big to fail based on supply and demand and this and that. The same chatter that we're hearing today. And people were happy to take his money and let him short position the market. They laughed at him. He looked like a crazy person. So one of the things we have to understand, folks, is Michael Burry has now sold off 94% of his stock holdings, $100 million liquidated out of the markets. And what that really tells us, folks, is, and we've heard this before, if not, you're going to hear it now, is all the markets completely benefited from the amount of money injected into the economy. So all the asset classes are in fact overvalued. That's why we've seen the big heavy hitters reduce their positions, but nobody quite as famous as Michael Burry. This guy made the most money in the last housing bubble shorting the market. He's now, of course, doing it again. And what we have to understand, folks, is time frames. That's the million-dollar question that we all really want to know is, well, when is it going to crash then, Scott? When is it going to crash? And I've said since I started reporting on this about 6 months ago or so, it'll take a year for this to play out, for the dust to settle, for us to pay the piper. And we're seeing already my prediction come true in terms of back then we didn't have inflation yet. Now inflation has reared its ugly head. We're seeing all kinds of just how fragile the economy really is. We're seeing big companies like Zillow or Evergrande in China fail. The blowback we've talked about, it's coming, folks, like I said. So when you see Michael Burry sell off 94%, over $100 million, getting it out of the stock market, these markets are in fact overvalued. They're pumped up. They're artificially pumped up. The only thing left in these markets is stimulus money and retail investors. The majority of heavy hitters are long gone, and the majority of the population will get basically go down with the Titanic on this one. It's just reality. So like I said before, the $1 million question, when? Well, when is it going to happen? So let's look at Michael Burry, because he's been the most successful in predicting the last housing bubble, in fact, bursting, and he's predicting it again. It's no surprise. This bubble's bigger, so it should provide even a bigger downturn. Plus today, with our digital diet and contagion being a much bigger component than it was in the last housing bubble, because today we're all way more connected through our devices than we were in 2008 era. This one could be like a thief in the night and come out of nowhere. We've talked about that. Something could come out of left field, a black swan event. We're already seeing China, second biggest economy in the world, their real estate companies are defaulting. It could be our Lehman moment here, the same similar catalyst as we saw in one of the big banks fail in the last downturn. When China coughs, America catches a cold. It's just the reality. We are that connected. And so, I mean, folks, I continue to just, as in final thought, this didn't pass the smell test from the beginning. That's why I turned on this camera. And as a result, I didn't realize it would happen. But we've continued to turn the camera on because I've seen that this has resonated with an audience. And at the end of the day, my job is to help people. And if it's getting them safe on the sideline and not making the sale right now, I am fine with that. Because again, folks, I don't want to see people lose it all speculating on euphoric housing market or any market. So I just want to continue to let people know, when you see people like Michael Burry reduce their positions in the stock market by 94%, he's all the way out. He's got 6 stocks that currently he's holding. CVS Pharmacies being, I think, his top one, because he probably knows, this is probably a little bit of a joke, people are going to need medication when this thing goes sideways. And so he's probably thinking that's a good stock to own. Who knows? It doesn't matter. It's not important. The reality is this very successful, wealthy, positioned people have reduced their positions. Wake up, smell the coffee, folks. We have to understand the world we're currently living in is very, very fragile. I'm going to continue to sound the alarm. I'm going to continue to ring the bell. And I don't care how many rainbows and sunshine content creators are out there trying to tell you that this market can go forever based on this or that. You can't temperature check as many things as we just temperature checked and put it on a supply or demand or interest rate only type of situation. You have to look at what the heavy hitters are doing. Michael Burry has reduced his positions, sold off 94%, over $100 million in stocks, and placed it somewhere else. So if you appreciate the content, I humbly ask you to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Go make a count today. I'll see you on the next video.